What if everything you've been told about protein is a bit out of date? What if the foods that powered ancient empires, supported astronauts in experiments, and built Olympic-level muscle aren't hiding in the meat case at all, but in the plant aisle? Stay with me. By the end of this series, I'll show you 20 plant foods that, by specific measures, rival or even beat meat for protein density. Quick tease, number 20 was studied by NASA, and number 14 actually has more protein per calorie than a ribeye. If you care about evidence-backed nutrition, hit subscribe and like now, so you don't miss the top tiers. Here's how I rank these. Sometimes it's protein per cooked serving, sometimes protein per 100 grams, sometimes protein by dry weight or per calorie. Whichever measure best highlights how that plant stacks up against common meat comparisons. Where a food is commonly described as a complete protein, I'll note that and briefly explain what that means. I'll also flag allergens, gluten, and algae sourcing risks as we go. There's a consolidated caution block coming later, but quick heads up now. Peanuts, soy, gluten, and algae can be problems for some people, so be mindful. We'll work down from 20 to 11 in this first segment, compact, punchy profiles, so you can start experimenting in your kitchen tonight. Each item, a punch stat, why it matters, a line of historical or cultural context, one sentence modern benefit, and a quick how-to. 20. Chlorella, the algae NASA looked at. Punch stat, chlorella can be roughly 50–60% protein by dry weight. Why it matters, that's an astonishing protein density, tiny in volume, huge on protein relative to its weight. History, context. Scientists have studied chlorella for decades as a compact, nutrient-dense food for closed environments. Think long missions or tight rations. Modern benefit. Studies and experimental programs, even NASA-level interest, highlight chlorella's nutrient density and its mix of protein, vitamins, and chlorophyll. It's particularly interesting for situations where weight and space matter. How to use it. Powdered chlorella blends into smoothies, green shakes, or fortified energy bars. Start with small amounts and ramp up since the flavor is intense. Caveat, choose reputable sources to avoid heavy metal contamination and look for chlorella processed to break the cell wall for better digestibility. 19. Spirulina, the classic blue-green protein booster. Punch stat. Spirulina is another algae with extremely high protein by dry weight, comparable to chlorella in density. Why it matters? When measured dry, spirulina delivers far more protein per gram than most fresh animal foods, making it a potent supplement option. History context. Used in lake food systems for centuries in Central Africa and modernized into powdered supplements across the globe. Modern benefit. Research shows spirulina is rich in B vitamins, iron, and antioxidants, and can be a compact way to boost daily protein and micronutrients, useful for athletes and anyone short on calories, but needing protein. How to use it. Stir a teaspoon into a smoothie, soup, or salad dressing. Remember, it's a supplement, not a replacement for whole meals. Safety note. Choose high-quality, tested products. Algae supplements can vary in purity. 18. Moringa, leafy powerhouse. Punch stat, moringa leaf, fresh or powdered, has a remarkably dense protein profile compared with many leafy greens. Why it matters? It's not just protein. Moringa brings a broad array of amino acids, vitamins, and minerals in a tiny package. History, context. Called the drumstick tree in parts of South Asia and Africa, moringa has been part of traditional diets and medicinal practices for centuries. Modern benefit. Clinical and nutritional studies associate moringa with antioxidant activity and a multi-nutrient profile that supports overall nutritional adequacy in low-resource settings. How to use it? Add moringa powder to smoothies, soups, or homemade seasoning blends. Fresh leaves cook like spinach. Note, start with small amounts to assess tolerance. 17. Nutritional yeast, the savory, flaky protein booster. PunchStat, a couple of tablespoons of nutritional yeast, delivers concentrated protein plus B vitamins. Many brands also fortify with B12. Why it matters: it's a dry, shelf-stable way to add both savory flavor and usable protein to meals. History, context. From vegetarian kitchens to vegan cheese analogues, nutritional yeast has been a staple where cheesy flavor and umami are desired without dairy. Modern benefit: provides protein and often B12, only if fortified, making it useful for plant-based diets that need reliable B12 sources via fortified foods or supplements. How to use it: sprinkle on popcorn, stir into sauces for creaminess, or use in dressings. Check labels for B12 fortification and sodium content. 16. Hemp seeds, tiny complete protein bombs. PunchStat, hemp seeds are one of the plant foods often listed as a complete protein, containing all essential amino acids in a usable balance. Why it matters: few plant foods marry a complete amino acid profile with healthy fats, omega-3 and omega-6, and minerals. History, context. Hemp has been cultivated for millennia across Asia and Europe for fiber, food, and oil. Traditional diets have long used the seeds for nutrition. Modern benefit: studies highlight hemp's balanced fat profile and amino acids. It's especially handy for people combining protein goals with heart-healthy fat intake. How to use it: sprinkle hulled hemp seeds on salads, yogurt, or oatmeal. Blend into smoothies or use as the base for vegan pesto. 15. Edamame, young soybeans, intact and satisfying. PunchStat, shelled edamame is a high-protein legume commonly counted among plant foods, with meat-comparable protein per cup. Why it matters: edamame is both protein-rich and offers fiber, making it calorie-efficient for protein while supporting satiety. History, context. Staple in East Asian cuisines for centuries, now a global snack and side dish. Modern benefit: soy proteins have been extensively studied for their role in muscle protein synthesis and heart health-associated lipid profiles. Edamame is an accessible whole food form of that protein. How to use it: steam and salt the pods as a snack. Toss shelled edamame into salads, fried rice, or blended soups. Caution: soy is a common allergen. 14. Mycoprotein, the fungus-based protein that outperforms ribeye per calorie. PunchStat claim: by calorie, mycoprotein can deliver more protein than a ribeye, making it exceptionally efficient for protein per calorie. Why it matters: this is the one that surprises most people. Mycoprotein is a fungal protein that's lean in calories but dense in usable protein, so per-calorie comparisons can favor it over fatty cuts of beef. History, context. Developed and popularized in commercial products in recent decades, mycoprotein builds on a long tradition of fermented and fungal foods in human diets. Modern benefit: clinical trials and food studies show mycoprotein supports muscle protein synthesis, appetite control, and sustainable production profiles compared to many animal proteins. How to use it: found in ready-made meat analog products or as mince-style preparations. Use it like ground meat in tacos, pasta sauces, or stir-fries. Note: check labels for processing and fiber content. As with any fungal protein, some people report sensitivities. 13. Seitan, wheat gluten, the dense meat analog. PunchStat, seitan is essentially concentrated wheat protein. By weight, it's one of the protein-dense plant foods that can rival animal meats. Why it matters: if you look at protein per 100 grams, seitan often matches or exceeds many lean meats because it's almost pure gluten protein. History, context. A staple of East Asian monastery cuisines for centuries, seitan has turned into a global favorite for meat-like texture and high protein. Modern benefit: it's calorie-efficient protein for omnivores and plant eaters alike, though it lacks certain amino acids that are easily supplied by pairing with legumes or seeds. How to use it: Slice and pan-sear, stew, or marinate seitan for sandwiches, stir-fries and kebabs. Caution: seitan is not suitable for those with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity. 12. Quinoa, the South American grain that's actually a seed, and complete. Punch stat: quinoa is frequently listed as a plant complete protein, one of the rare seeds, grains, with a complete amino acid profile. Why it matters? For people moving away from meat, quinoa's completeness simplifies meal planning, since it reduces the need to combine multiple protein sources at every meal. History. Context. A staple for Andean civilizations for thousands of years, the grain that colonial and modern agriculture once underestimated is now a global crop. Modern benefit: studies show quinoa supports blood sugar control and offers fiber, minerals and protein in a single package, useful for balanced meals on the go. How to use it: cook like rice and use as a salad base, breakfast grain, or into stuffed vegetables. Toast before simmering for nuttier flavor. 11. Lentils, the timeless legume. Punch stat: 1 cup cooked lentils is commonly cited around 18 grams of protein, very efficient for a cooked whole legume. Why it matters? Lentils are accessible, cheap, and come with fiber and micronutrients that make them a staple for feeding families and athletes alike. History context: cultivated and consumed for over 10,000 years across Eurasia and North Africa, lentils are one of the oldest domesticated crops. Modern benefit: research links frequent legume consumption with better blood pressure, improved glycemic control, and a lower risk of certain chronic diseases. How to use it: make soups, dals, salads, or lentil meat blends for tacos and burgers. Canned options make them easy to use. Tip: combine with a grain like rice for complementary amino acids if you're aiming for a full amino acid mix. Quick connective note: those first 10 already cover algae studied by space agencies, fungal proteins that beat steak on a calorie basis, complete seeds and grains, and staples that have fed civilizations for millennia. We haven't even hit the most surprising 5 yet. Those are coming up. Before we continue, one important reminder: all numeric density claims depend on the basis used, dry weight, cooked serving, or calories, so I'll always call out the basis when I make direct comparisons to meat. Now let's widen the context a bit. Why should you care about protein density measured this way? Because modern diets often focus on protein grams, as if all grams are equal. They're not. Fat and carbohydrate content change calorie load and satiety. A steak with a high fat percentage can deliver fewer protein grams per calorie than a lean plant concentrate or a carefully processed plant product. That's why comparing per calorie or per dry weight can flip the narrative. Plants aren't weaker, they're often just measured differently. Mini interlude: what complete protein actually means in practice. When I say a food is a complete protein, I mean it supplies all the essential amino acids humans can't synthesize, in proportions that make the protein usable for building and repairing tissues. A number of plant foods meet this bar. Quinoa and hemp seeds are classic whole food examples. Tofu and edamame, soy, also qualify. In other cases, foods can be combined across a day, grains plus legumes, to cover those amino acid needs. That doesn't mean you need to combine them at every meal. Your body pools amino acids over time, but it's useful to know when planning a mostly plant-based approach. Back to the list. Next up, I'll show you items 10 through 1, where tempeh, seitan, depending on the ranking, certain seed blends and perhaps an unexpected powdered leaf are all fighting for the top spots. I'll dig deeper into sustainability metrics there too. Fungi and algae are especially efficient producers of protein per land and water use, and that efficiency matters if you care about planetary footprint alongside your plate. Before the top tier, a couple more practical notes to anchor tonight's kitchen experiment. If you're shifting away from meat to plant proteins, Don't obsess over single food perfection. Mix, match, and prioritize whole foods. Tempeh, edamame, lentils, and hemp seeds together cover a broad amino acid range while delivering fiber and micronutrients meat often lacks. Do you watch allergens and gut tolerance? Peanuts and soy are common allergens. Seitan is off limits for gluten-sensitive folks. Algae powders can carry contamination if low quality. When trying concentrated products, spirulina, chlorella, mycoprotein, buy from reputable brands and introduce them gradually. In packaging and fortification matter, nutritional yeast is a great protein and B12 source only if it's fortified. Check the label. Otherwise, plan a separate B12 strategy if you eliminate animal foods. All right, we're warming up. In the next section, I'll open the top 10 and we'll slow down for the 5 most protein-dense, surprising or sustainability-friendly picks. Expect practical plating tips, athlete-ready meal templates, and a few myth-busting comparisons that will make you rethink your steak and eggs baseline. 10. Pumpkin seeds, pepitas. PunchStat, pumpkin seeds are a remarkably protein-dense seed. Small handfuls deliver a concentrated hit of protein alongside zinc, magnesium, and iron. Why it matters. Seeds like these act as compact packets of protein and minerals that beef doesn't reliably supply in the same balance. They also add healthy fats that increase satiety without bloating your plate. History context. Pepitas have been eaten for centuries across the Americas, prized by indigenous peoples for their long shelf life and nutrient density. Modern benefit. Nutrition research highlights pumpkin seeds for their mineral profile, favorable fats, and a protein contribution that complements whole grain and legume-based meals. Great for recovery and everyday nutrition. How to use it? Toast and sprinkle on salads, blend into pesto, or grind into a nut-free parmesan for pasta. Add to baked goods or trail mixes so you get protein in snacks as well as main meals. If you're tracking protein efficiency, a couple of tablespoons scattered over a bowl can shift that meal from low protein to balanced. 9. Almonds and almond butter. PunchStat. Almonds are one of the higher protein tree nuts. Almond butter concentrates that protein into a spreadable form. Why it matters? Nuts pair protein with calories from healthy monounsaturated fat, offering a portable, calorie-efficient way to support protein needs across a busy day. History, chart context. Cultivated across the Mediterranean and the Middle East for millennia, almonds have long been a pantry staple for energy and endurance. Modern benefit. Studies link regular nut consumption to better heart markers and improved satiety, so you can get protein without spiking calories in unhelpful ways. How to use it. For a quick protein boost, stir a spoonful of almond butter into oatmeal, smoothies, or yogurt, or smear it on apple slices. If you're watching calories, measure portions. Nuts are nutrient-dense, and a little goes a long way. 8. Chickpeas, garbanzo beans, PunchStat. Chickpeas deliver a solid plant protein payload per cooked cup and serve as a versatile whole food protein for both savory and sweet applications. Why it matters? As a legume, chickpeas offer protein plus fiber and slow-burning carbs, which means they help sustain energy while contributing to daily protein totals. History, context. A staple across the Mediterranean, Middle East and South Asia for centuries, chickpeas appear in everything from stews to flatbreads. Modern benefit. Epidemiological evidence links regular legume intake with improved metabolic health and lower cardiovascular risk, making chickpeas a smart protein choice for long-term health. How to use it. Puree into hummus. Roast with spices for a crunchy snack, mash into burgers, or use canned chickpeas in quick curries. One versatile can often replaces a meat-centered entree without sacrificing protein. 7. Oats. PunchStat. Oats give a meaningful amount of protein per cooked serving and bring beta-glucans, soluble fibers known to support heart health and satiety. Why it matters. Breakfast is often protein poor. Swapping or boosting with oats can turn morning meals into legitimate contributors toward your daily protein target. History, context. Oats have fed northern climates for centuries and were prized as both porridge and emergency ration for laborers and soldiers. Modern benefit. Clinical work points to oats for cholesterol-lowering effects and steadying blood sugar, making them a strategic foundation for high-protein bowls when paired with seeds, nut butter, or dairy-free protein powders. How to use it. For a protein-forward breakfast, cook oats with plant milk and stir in hemp seeds, nut butter, or a scoop of pea protein. Overnight oats with added seeds and soy yogurt make a grab-and-go protein solution. 6. Amaranth and other ancient pseudo-cereals. Punch stat. Amaranth is a seed often treated like a grain, with above-average protein for a starch. Some cultures relied on it as a core staple. Why it matters. Pseudo-cereals like amaranth and quinoa offer different amino acid mixes than wheat or rice, sometimes including higher lysine, which helps round out plant-based protein profiles. History context. Amaranth was a key crop in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica and has resurfaced as a modern superseed because of its nutrient density and resilience. Modern benefit. Researchers note amaranth's balanced macronutrients and micronutrients. When used regularly, it can elevate the overall protein quality of grain-based meals. How to use it. Toast and simmer like porridge. Pop seeds like popcorn for a crunchy topping, or use cooked amaranth as a stuffing for peppers and squash. Combine with beans or seeds to maximize complementary amino acids. 5. Tempeh, the fermented whole soy powerhouse. Punch stat. Tempeh is a high-protein, fermented soy product that often sits among the most protein-dense whole food plant options per cooked serving. Why it matters. As a whole soy product, tempeh brings complete protein, all essential amino acids, along with the benefits of fermentation, improved digestibility, and a unique, savory profile. History context. Originating in Indonesia, tempeh has been a traditional protein source for centuries and is central to many regional cuisines. Modern benefit. Clinical work supports fermented soy's role in digestive tolerance and protein utilization. Athletes and everyday eaters both use tempeh as a meat-like texture with a full amino acid profile. How to use it. Slice and marinate tempeh, then pan-sear, bake or crumble into chili and tacos. Because it soaks up flavors, it's a great vehicle for bold sauces and spices. If you're new to tempeh, steam it briefly before frying to soften and remove any bitter edge. 4. Pea protein isolate and split peas. Punch stat. Pea protein isolates derived from yellow split peas are concentrated plant proteins used in powders and meat analogues. They're often rated for high grams of protein per serving and per ounce. Why it matters. Isolates concentrate plant protein while minimizing carbs and fats, which lets you target protein without excess calories. Useful for athletes and anyone optimizing protein per meal. History. Context. Peas have nourished European diets for centuries. Modern processing has turned them into a neutral-flavored, flexible protein ingredient. Modern benefit. Clinical trials compare pea protein favorably to animal-derived proteins for muscle protein synthesis when doses are comparable. It's a practical, allergen-friendly alternative in many formulations. How to use it. Use pea protein powder in smoothies, pancake batter, or homemade protein bars. In textured form, pea protein is the base for many plant minces. Treat it like ground meat in sauces and stews. Note: isolates are processed products. If you prefer whole food approaches, whole split peas are still a robust plant protein source. 3. Tofu. Firm soy curd. Punch stat. Firm tofu concentrates soy protein into a versatile block. When pressed and cooked, it delivers a predictable protein contribution per serving and qualifies as a complete protein source. Why it matters. Tofu is an accessible, low-cost whole soy food that scales from soups to stir-fries to grills, offering both texture and a consistent protein hit. History/context. Tofu has been central to East Asian cuisines for a millennium and evolved from a basic protein source into a global staple for plant-based cooking. Modern benefit. Soy's protein quality has been extensively studied. Tofu delivers usable protein that supports maintenance and recovery when combined across meals and days. How to use it. Press, marinate and pan-fry or bake firm tofu for crisp outside and tender inside. Crumble into scrambles, grill kebabs, or blend silken tofu into smoothies and dressings for an extra protein bump. Allergies. As with edamame and tempeh, soy is a common allergen. Take care if this applies to you. 2. Peanut products. Whole peanuts and peanut butter. Allergen caveat. Punch stat. Peanuts and peanut butter provide concentrated protein per serving and a dense mix of fats and fiber that make them both energy-rich and protein-efficient snacks or meal add-ons. Why it matters. For many people who tolerate them, peanuts are one of the most affordable, calorie-efficient ways to add plant protein throughout the day. History/context. Peanuts have long fed populations across the Americas and later globalized into countless regional dishes and spreads. Modern benefit. Regular nut and legume intake, including peanuts, is associated in population studies with improved cardiovascular markers when consumed as part of balanced diets. How to use it. Stir peanut butter into sauces, smoothies, or overnight oats. Pair with whole grain toast or banana for a balanced snack. Caution: peanuts are a major allergen. People with peanut allergy must avoid them, and cross-contamination in processing matters. 1. Concentrated plant proteins and textured vegetable protein, TVP, the highest density contenders. Punch stat. Concentrated plant proteins like soy protein isolate, textured vegetable protein, and similar concentrates rank at the very top for grams of protein per weight or per calorie. This is where many plant products outpace fatty cuts of meat on a per-calorie basis. Why it matters? If your metric is protein per calorie or per gram of dry ingredient, concentrates win. This is why many athletes and product developers favor them for targeted protein delivery. History/context. From traditional legumes dried for protein preservation to modern isolates developed for sports nutrition and food innovation, concentrating plant protein is an old-new technology that scales efficiently. Modern benefit. Clinical research demonstrates that when dosed equally, concentrated plant proteins can support muscle protein synthesis similarly to animal proteins for many users. They're also central to many affordable, low environmental impact meat analogs. How to use it? Use TVP or isolates rehydrated in chilies, ragouts, and taco mixes to replace ground meat with minimal recipe changes. Add powders to smoothies, batters, and sauces. Note: isolates are highly processed. If you prefer minimally processed foods, pair whole legumes and grains instead. Mini climax and context. Why the top tier matters. Look back at that top list, and what you'll notice is structural. Whole seeds and nuts offer balanced nutrition. Legumes provide fiber plus protein. Fermented soy and fungi give complete profiles and savory textures. Algae and isolates crank protein density to extremes. The critical point is the comparison baseline we teased earlier. If you measure protein relative to calories or dry weight, rather than raw cooked weight, some plant items, mycoprotein, chlorella, spirulina, concentrated isolates, match or surpass meat cuts in protein efficiency. That flips the conventional story. Meat isn't inherently the densest source of usable protein in every metric. It's a matter of which metric you care about. And when you're trying to maximize protein per calorie or per gram of dry ingredient, plants often perform spectacularly. Grouped cautions and practical considerations. A few safety and planning notes to make this transition safe and sustainable. First, allergens. Peanuts and soy are common triggers. If you have allergies, avoid or substitute and check packaging for cross-contact warnings. Seitan is concentrated wheat gluten and is not suitable for those with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity. For algae powders like chlorella and spirulina, quality varies. Low-quality products may carry heavy metal contaminants or microcystin from polluted water. Choose reputable brands, look for third-party testing, and prefer chlorella processed to break the cell wall for better digestibility. Nutritional yeast can be an easy source of B12 only if fortified. Always check labels, because not all brands include B12. For concentrated isolates and textured proteins, remember they're processed foods. They're excellent tools for hitting protein targets, but whole food balance matters for long-term micronutrient intake. Lastly, if you have medical conditions, are pregnant, nursing, or managing medications, consult a qualified healthcare professional before making sizable dietary shifts. Practical meal templates and athlete-ready combos. If you want to apply this in real-life meals, here are a few plug-and-play templates that prioritize high protein without losing variety. Breakfast: oat porridge cooked in fortified plant milk, stirred with a scoop of pea protein powder, topped with hemp seeds and a spoon of almond butter, steady carbs, extra protein, healthy fats. Quick lunch: quinoa salad with roasted pumpkin seeds, edamame, chopped tempeh, and a lemon tahini dressing, complete amino acids plus fiber and iron. A dinner swap: rehydrate TVP or use crumbled tempeh with a bold spice mix in place of ground beef for tacos, chili, or bolognese. Same texture, better protein per calorie options. Recovery snack: smoothie with frozen banana, spinach, spirulina, small pinch, pea protein powder and hemp seeds, portable, quick and nutrient-dense. Meal prep staple: lentil and amaranth pilaf with pan-seared tofu cubes and a pepita topping, balanced macros and a range of micronutrients for the week. Sustainability snapshot: quickly on the environmental angle, fungi, mycoprotein and algae, spirulina, chlorella, stand out as some of the most resource-efficient protein producers per unit of land and water. Seeds and legumes, versatile, low-input crops, scale in many climates and often require fewer resources than equivalent animal proteins. Concentrated isolates can be produced at scale with relatively low land use compared with livestock. If planetary footprint matters to you, prioritizing fungi, algae, and legumes will typically lower your environmental cost per gram of protein. How to start transforming your diet. Practical next steps. You don't need to throw out your steak or go all or nothing. Small experiments are the smart move. Week 1. Add 1 plant protein to a meal you already enjoy. Swap ground meat for TVP in your chili once, or toss tempeh into a stir-fry. Week 2. Make breakfasts protein-focused. Add hemp seeds and peanut or almond butter to your oats, or a scoop of pea protein to a smoothie. Week 3. Try an algae supplement as a micronutrient and protein booster. Start with small amounts and purchase high-quality, third-party tested products. Indeed. Ongoing, rotate your sources because variety protects against nutrient gaps and keeps meals interesting. Aim to include legumes, seeds, nuts, fermented soy, and a concentrated protein or 2 across the week. Final reframing and call to action. So here's the bottom line. If you've been measuring protein by myths and a mental image of the meat plate, it's time for an update. Across different metrics, per calorie, per dry weight, per cooked serving, many plant foods not only match, but sometimes exceed common meat benchmarks. That doesn't mean meat is bad, or that everyone must go fully plant-based. It means your options are wider and more powerful than conventional wisdom suggests. Start with one swap. Combine proteins across the day and treat concentrated options like tools in a toolbox, not absolute replacements. Which plant surprised you most from this list? Tell me in the comments, are you team legumes, seeds, algae, or fungi? If you want more recipe-ready menus that use these proteins in athlete-focused or family-friendly meals, say so below. If this video helped you rethink protein, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. Next time, we'll walk through week-long meal plans that maximize protein, flavor, and sustainability without breaking the bank. Transform your diet. Start with one of these today.